We know in the last hour, a man called Mohammed Fahir Amaaz, who is 20, has been found guilty at Liverpool Crown Court of assaulting two female police officers, PC Lydia Ward. He caused her actual bodily harm by breaking her nose, and the assault of emergency worker PC Ellie Cook. That was the footage, of course, was captured at Manchester Airport last July. Well, Spence KC is a criminal barrister at Red Lion Chambers and joins me now. Simon, thank you for joining us on short notice. I do appreciate this. What happens now? Because there may well be a retrial. My understanding is that the Crown Prosecution Service will take a few days to think about whether that happens. That's in regard to Mohammed Amaaz, who is 26, and he denied a single charge of assaulting PC Zachary Morrison, causing actual bodily harm. The jury failed to reach a verdict on that. So just tell us what happens next.
Well, what will happen is that the Crown Prosecution Service and the prosecuting barrister or barristers from the case will reflect on the evidence, make a decision as to whether the case was either significantly weakened or strengthened during the course of the first trial, and then make a decision as whether there remains a realistic prospect of conviction with a different jury on a retrial. And if they conclude that it is, then the procedural convention, it's not actually set in law, it's just a convention, is that the prosecution can have a second go, putting it bluntly. That's when the jury have failed to agree. If a jury is discharged before they go out to consider a verdict, then you're back to square one, and if that jury can't agree, you have potentially a third go. But the general rule is the prosecution are entitled to ask a second jury to look at the same evidence and see if they can reach a decision.
What we know as well in regard to the jury was that there were 12, as there usually are. One of them was discharged to go on holiday. That was a pre-arranged holiday that happened from Monday. And we know that the judge said at one stage that there could well be a majority verdict of 10 versus 1. That appears to have happened in regard to Mohammed Fahir Amaaz. What is, in regard to what happens next, in regard to an actual sentencing, will it be after the possible retrial that a sentencing happens? How does that work, Simon?
Well, certainly the trial as a whole will have to conclude. So if there are co-defendants still awaiting trial for whatever reason, then the judge won't want to pass sentence until he's got the full overall picture. Because
that could, in theory, prejudice the possible retrial?
Well, it wouldn't prejudice the retrial because the judge could make a Contempt of Court Act order preventing the publication of the sentence that had been imposed.
Okay.
But with the sentencing guidelines in relation to assault, and particularly in relation to assaulting emergency workers and police officers, if it's a group attack, and I'm not commenting one way or the other on the evidence, but if it's a group attack as opposed by a single person, that's seen as an aggravating factor, in which case the sentence could be longer than if it's one person attacking a police officer as opposed to a group. And so the judge's view would be that he hasn't got a full, complete picture and how to approach the question of sentence on the one who's been convicted until there are verdicts, if there are going to be, on the other defendants.
And there are police, aside from the legal process, there are misconduct allegations and indeed a process in regard to that. Does that have any bearing whatsoever on the legal process?
It doesn't on the criminal legal process. Generally speaking, if there are other non-criminal
we're just losing Simon there. Listen, thank you, Simon. It certainly illuminated quite a lot of that. Simon Spence there. We just had a problem with the connection there at the end. Simon Spence KC, he's a criminal barrister at Red Lion Chambers. Thank you to him.